All right, guys, back with the final tier of our rookie wide receiver rankings. This tier is not as exciting, not the highest names, but there's a couple names you might like here. That said, I'm your host, Calvin Timms. Dale was with me. Find us over on Twitter. Like, comment, subscribe to the video, all that stuff. If you're watching the overall video, I apologize. It's very repetitive, very, very repetitive, but gotta do it for the algorithms, right? Or something like that. That's what they always say in all the other videos I watch. Trying to be like them, trying to be cool. Dale, you ready to get into the final one?
Absolutely. Can't wait for these guys.
Yeah. All right. Uh, Dale said he has watched any of them. He said they're all trash. That's what. No, just kidding.
All of them are. No.
So no, we're gonna start off here with Zay Flowers. This is a guy that I've heard get a lot of hype from a lot of people out there, and we talked about trap players earlier. This is this year's Sky Moore for me, where he's a small school type of guy. He's being talked about and kind of touted with no real substance behind him. Like you look at him and he's okay, and that's pretty much all it is. And I don't really want to bet on okay earlier than top 10. Like he's my number 10 guy here. All the guys we talked about earlier, I could see a real role in the NFL for all of them. Tier 1, obviously all those guys could be alphas in the NFL. Tier 2, those guys are slot guys that kind of have a little bit more upside with Jalen Hyatt and Josh Downs. Tier 3 are the guys that they have the potential, the talent to kind of jump up there, but few more question marks. And Zay Flowers, for me, I'm just a little nervous about him. He's okay and just not great. And again, I just don't really want to bet on that. So 5'10", 172. So he's a tiny guy, first off. Played for Boston College, which is in the ACC, which is, again, not a great conference in general. He's a senior, which is another red flag. So he's probably going to be in the Senior Bowl. So something to watch for there. Not every senior is going to be bad, but when your best statistical season is as a senior, that's a huge red flag for me personally, because that means that you have so much more experience than some of these other guys that you should be able to really bully them and outperform them. And when as a rookie you're not great, as a sophomore, you do show a little bit of something, but it's not the best in the world. As a junior, again, it's okay. It's not great. It's nothing special. But then as a senior, you kind of take a step forward. To me, that's a little bit of a red flag. But I wanted to talk on him. I do have him as my number 10 guy, because there is the possibility that he could be a top slot wide receiver in this class, but I think that he has almost no potential to play on the outside whatsoever. His combine is going to be interesting because I don't, on tape, see him as that fast, but his stats, 200 catches through all 4 of his college career, all 4 years of his college career, for 3,056 yards, a 15.3 average, which is solid, but, it's ACC, so you got to kind of water that down by like 25% there, and then 29 touchdowns. So again, sounds not bad on paper, but 78 catches for 1,077 and 12 as his senior. That's a red flag for me, because the highest other year was 9 touchdowns as a sophomore, but then 8 in the other 2 years. It's just, I don't know. It's not consistent, and that's what makes me nervous. You look at the size, you look at the conference, you look at the senior, the inconsistency year to year, and it just makes me nervous. So what are your thoughts on Zay Flowers?
He's very mid, is what I'll say, and that's how the kids will say it too. He's I mean, he's obviously good enough to be an NFL receiver, I
Yes.
feel. He is. He is. So, I don't want to trash him on that. Like he has pretty good hands. Um, I mean, he's a good runner with a football. Like he's not afraid to get physical. It's
Mm-hmm.
just his size is not good to be super physical, because his body's probably going to wear down eventually, and it's going to be hard for him to be outside. I can see him being like a punt returner, or I can see him being like your prototypical slot guy. But other than that, like he's kind of just you know. I
Yep.
mean, he's solid, but he doesn't do he's not anything thing extraordinary.
Right. And I showed a couple clips there. The dude is fast, which
Mhm.
is good. He's quick. He's very shifty. And I think one of his biggest upsides is he does have pretty good vision. He's able to kind of um, find the lanes as they're kind of developing downfield, which is a very good talent. But again, I think that
Yes, it is.
he has the potential in my mind to be he's an exclusive slot wide receiver to me, and he might be the best pure slot in this class, which would be fair to him. But I think that there's other guys that can go into the slot and be better. Someone like Jalen Hyatt, someone like Josh Downs. I think both of those guys would be better slot players than Zay Flowers. You get Marvin Mims in the slot, and it's kind of close there. So that's the reason why I have him so much further down. If you're a pure slot guy and you're not even the best in the class, I just don't think he's going to have a ton of draft capital behind him. I could be wrong here. So there's obviously, these are my rankings, my early rankings. So take everything with a grain of salt. But there's going to be people that are really talking him up, and people like him for a reason. I don't want to just say that he's terrible, but because he is good. He's just not, like Dale said, extraordinary in any real category that I kind of saw there. So that's the only thing with me. I think that he could be the number one slot wide receiver, but again, if you're looking for a slot, I'd rather have Jalen Hyatt and put him in the slot because of the explosion. I think that Jalen Hyatt plays a little bit bigger and a little bit quicker, has a little bit better production against bigger schools, and also isn't a senior, So there's just less red flags around someone like Jalen Hyatt. So I'd rather have him for my slot if I'm drafting a slot wide receiver. Doesn't mean that Jalen Hyatt's going to be better than Zay Flowers 3 years down the road. But for me, if I'm taking a gamble on that and these could change, again, early rankings, but let's just assume quickly that this is the exact order that the NFL drafts these guys, I'd rather just take the shot on Jalen Hyatt versus Zay Flowers. And that's just me. But, we just wanted to talk about him, give our thoughts on him early, and we'll kind of see how it changes over the next couple months, because I could be missing something. I've watched very brief highlights on all these guys. I've watched all the guys, read on their draft prospects and all their profiles and all that stuff, and kind of formulated my own thoughts on them, but I could be missing something. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you love Zay Flowers, make sure you comment on the video and just tell me why I'm wrong. I'm more than willing to listen to other arguments, but that's just my thoughts on Zay Flowers. So wanted to talk about him. Still have him top 10, but I've seen people with him as like their number 4, number 5 guy, and I'm just like, oh, that's tough to get behind in this draft class. So any final thoughts on him before we move on?
Nope.
All right. So the next guy here is going to be Raheem Jarrett. Raheem Jarrett plays for Maryland. 6 foot, 190 is what he's listed at. Some places have him listed as 200. So that's going to be interesting to see what he comes in at to the combine. Maryland, Big Ten. Big Ten is Ohio State part of the Big Ten? Dale?
I lost you. I'm sorry.
Is Ohio State part of the Big Ten?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't remember all the conferences. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. I don't remember where these crappy teams are from. But Maryland, they're okay if I remember right. The Big Ten's a decent conference. They're not the SEC.
Yeah.
But Raheem Jarrett he's got good stats, just not great stats. That's the kind of the whole tier here. These guys could definitely become something, but it's just not extraordinary, right? So,
Right.
119 catches through 3 years with Maryland. And Maryland, to be fair, also doesn't have like a world beater offense. Their quarterback
Hey. It's to his brother. Calm down.
you're right. Is he also concussed at half the time too, or
Well, I mean, not as often.
Okay. But he's okay. That's the biggest thing with Raheem Jarrett.
Yeah.
He's the number 2 target behind Jashawn Jones this year. They're kind of 1A and 1B, but it really seems like for the team, for Maryland, they like to spread it around. You look at from 2022 specifically, right? Jashawn Jones, 44 catches. Raheem Jarrett, 40 catches. Corey Dyches, 39 catches. Roman Hemby, 33 catches. And CJ Dupree, 30 catches. They have 5 guys with more than 30 catches. We were just talking about some other guys. You got you've got like Josh Downs, who has 70 more catches than the next guy. The next guy barely broke 40, and they've got 2 guys over 40, 5 guys over 30. It's just they really spread the ball around for Maryland. But that's why I like Raheem Jarrett so much. To me, he stood out a little bit more than some of the other guys, even though he was in more of a timeshare than some of the other prospects in this year's draft class. So, again, not the most amazing stats, but, when you're spreading the ball around that much, and really it's over 2 years. He didn't do much in 2020 when he's a rookie. He played 4 games, had 17 catches. You kind of scratch that season, whatever. Over the last 2 seasons, 102 catches for 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards. That's a lot better when you're looking at that. So, played with Tua's brother, Tulia Tagovailoa. We'll say it like that. Hopefully that's not butchering it too bad. But that's the big picture on Raheem Jarrett. Did you have any thoughts on him?
With Jarrett, with him being as a physical freak as what he was touted as, he still has all those measurables. I don't think he's gonna run like a lightning fast 40 time, but I feel he's more quick than fast. I guess is how you'd phrase it. So he's quick. He can jump. Having that vertical is really good. So he has really good strong hands. It's just the big thing is his size.
Yeah, he's kind of like
you know,
he's kind of like a gadget player. We were talking about this a little bit with him, but the very first clip that I showed, they gave him a handoff and he kind of was out of the backfield, broke a long run there. He's just more versatile like that. And he needs to go somewhere where they're going to utilize that, right? I think that he has a lot of talent, to be honest with you. He's just not the alpha type of personality, right? And that's fine. But you can get these guys that can go somewhere. Deebo Samuel was not an alpha. And I don't think he's Deebo Samuel, but, something similar to how they utilize Deebo, that's where I want to see him go and be utilized in the NFL. And I'm not saying that he has to get as much work as Deebo or, the same utilization completely, but I just want to see him go somewhere where they can maximize. Like him in Miami for a replacement for like when Tyreek's gonna eventually
old.
He's getting older, man. And if they can get someone to kind of develop behind him, I don't think that he's Tyreek fast, but I think you could utilize him in a similar sort of style as Tyreek Hill. You let him sit behind him, develop a little bit more, and I think that'd be a good fit for someone like him. I think that Mike McDaniel could utilize him a little bit more, or Josh McDaniels getting him on the Raiders, letting him sit behind Devontae Adams, again, another older guy. If Devontae Adams eventually is going to start to fall off, presumably. But this guy is the type of guy where I think that he could utilize that more versatile skill set and learn from one of these bigger name guys. And I think that'd be perfect for him. So number 11 guy here, not much to say about him, but just a name to kind of keep track of as we go on. Anything else with him?
It's with Jarrett. I can see him being kind of like a Curtis Samuel type.
Yeah,
and in kind of how you were describing him. I think they're very same size. Samuel's 5'11", which I think Jarrett's probably gonna measure around there. So it's same size, same pretty similar skill sets. So as long as he goes somewhere that will kind of help out his skill set, like I think he'll be a solid fantasy and regular.
Yeah, he's someone that I think has flex potential long term. And
Yes.
that's
Yes.
everyone always wants the wide receiver one, but you do need flex guys, right? Like you need
Yes.
you need the depth guys that you can possibly plug in and not be completely screwed week to week. And that's someone that I think Raheem Jarrett has the potential there for. So that's number 11 here. The last guy we're going to talk about in this tier, my number 12 guy, is going to be Rashee Rice from SMU. So he's 6'2", 203 pounds. Kind of differs. Some places have him listed at like 190. So that'll be interesting to see where he comes in at the combine. Red flags though with him. Senior for SMU, plays in the American Conference. So, not the best competition there. Again, you see a massive boost of production in his senior year, which we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's not necessarily the worst thing. We talked about it with Jalen Hyatt. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad as long as it's a constant development forward. And that's what we've kind of seen from him. As through all 4 years, he's literally gotten better every single year. His yardage did take a little bit of a dip in 2021, but a ton more receptions that year. More touchdowns that year, more touchdowns every single year, more receptions every single year. So he's gotten better, and it's shown on the field. But the biggest thing is he's a senior, and it's the American Conference. So there's a lot to kind of prove for him, but doesn't mean that he's going to be bad. It's just I can't bet on him at being an outlier. And we talked about this with the quarterback rankings, right? I'm not betting on Bryce Young to be amazing for fantasy football because he's 5'9", probably 5'10 and a half. But Bryce Young is going to be a statistical outlier in a negative direction. I'm not betting on that. This guy would have to be a statistical outlier in terms of red flags of senior production and small conference, where it doesn't mean he can't do it. He has the talent, and you've seen it on, and I'll show you a couple clips here, but it just means that I'm not investing on him. But he's someone that realistically is probably going to be like a 4th round pick, and it's not a terrible flyer in a rookie draft. So what are your thoughts on Rashee Rice here?
He's interesting in that like he did have a lot of production at SMU this last year, but I feel their offense is overinflated because of how pass heavy it is, and they played in the American Conference, which the best team this year was Tulane. He was
I think it was.
So yeah. So I mean, that's not super great competition that they're playing against, and then they're throwing it, seemed like 40, 50 times a game. So I don't think he's not going to go to an offense like that in the NFL. I feel he's solid, but I feel he can make a lot of plays and be competitive in trying to catch the ball, but I don't think he does anything that's super crazy or super great. I think the thing that he does have going for him is him being 6'2", and he is fairly fast, but I think there's going to be DBs that are able to run with him. So yeah, he's good, but he's not anything great.
So the good news is I'm just looking through here. Through all 4 years. Okay, so through the last 3 years, excluding his freshman year, he was the leader in receptions for the team all 3 years, which is pretty impressive, when you got 43 catches and you're the leader for the team. But this year specifically, like we talked about with Josh Downs, he had a massive gap between him and the number 2 guy in terms of catches. He had 96 catches. The next guy had 37. So, he was the entire offense for them this year, which is good to see that he was able to do it. But yeah, the problem is, again, like we talked about, it's just you can't trust the American Conference at all. So we'll see what this guy can do when it comes to the Okay, so his quarterback was Tanner Mordecai. I knew that name from
Yep.
somewhere. He was from Oklahoma for 3 years. That's why.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, sorry. Quick little aside there. But we'll see what he can do at the combine. If this guy can come out and show some explosiveness, maybe he's got a pretty good vert or a pretty good 40. If he can blow us away in one of those two categories, there's the potential that it could really boost his draft stock. And he's someone, again, I think that it's a flyer pick in like the 4th round of your rookie draft. But if he gets 4th round draft capital or better, it's a rookie draft pick that I would not be afraid to kind of take a shot on. That's the biggest thing with him. Again, he's not a world beater. He's not a super special talent, but we've seen guys like Antonio Brown, who wasn't a special talent, come out of nowhere in the 6th round and be an amazing NFL wide receiver. It does happen. And we just want to talk about him because I do like what I see from him, but I just don't love, compared to some of the other guys, compared to the tier 1s, the JSN or Quentin Johnston or Kayshon Boutte or whatever, right? We like what we see from those guys more, obviously, but I see a diamond in the rough here with Rashee Rice, and that's the last thing I wanted to talk about here in this category. So, any last thoughts on tier number 4?
Nope.
All right, so that is the final tier for the rookie wide receivers. Thank you guys for joining us for all these receivers. Again, these are early rankings, so they're going to change. They're going to go up and down as we go through this whole process, but you're going to take this ride with us. We're going to update them after the combine, see the big change in the offseason narratives, and really see where the rise and fall of these guys starts to take place. So make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing to the video wherever you're listening to it, and it just helps us out with the algorithm. Find us over on Twitter. We're here all off season as we start to roll into that. Any questions you might have, we can probably find an answer for you. So thank you guys again for listening. Join us next week. We're going to be talking over the tight ends. That's where it's going to get a little bit more interesting. There's not as many guys there, but we're going to be able to kind of roll through a few of them pretty quickly. And then after that, we're going to be really getting into some off-season content with mock drafts and buys and sells and things like that. So that said, anything else from you, Dale, before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a good night.